Okay, I want to tell you guys something for your notes. It's on the idea of tariffs, and I want you to just make a little section on this in your notebooks. Tariffs, and also probably either above it or to the side, the national bank. And I'm going to try to write carefully here so you can follow it. But understand the idea of the way all this worked, how important this was for American history. Is this was an import tax and a way of raising money for the government, and so money for the government, but also it was another reason why they put taxes on imported goods, is to protect United States industries. And so money coming in, goods coming into this country were taxed, and the money goes to the government. But it also, by taxing imported goods, it made United States goods a little bit more attractive. For example, let's say from Britain, there was a 100 cost to the United States a $100 plow, iron plow, that was manufactured in Britain. You could also get maybe a German plow for a little bit more, maybe $110. Very good. Or you have the United States plow that's $120. Now, why was the United States plow more at that time? We're talking about, let's say, 1820. Why was the United States plow cost more? Well, it wasn't the factories. The United States industry was new. It did not have much experience compared to the British and German, especially the British, but also the German industry. And so it was behind, and so the plow cost more. It wasn't efficient. The quality probably wasn't there, and it's closer, but it actually costs less to make them in Britain at that time. Until by the 1850s, the United States was making very good plows. So when the United States farmer was looking for a plow, not just one plow, let's say a huge farmer, in other words, lots of plantations, lots of land, lots of crops, a big business, an international business, they're selling their crops all around the world. When they wanted an iron plow, they're looking at quality, and let's assume these are fairly equal in quality. Which one of these is more attractive? Well, the lower price. So people would like the British plow at this time period. But with the tariff included right here, you would add, let's just say, another $25 to the cost, to the total, to the price. And so now the British cost of the British plow is now $125, and the cost of the German plow is $135. Maybe it's the best one, but there is no tax on the US because there's no tariff, because it's not imported, and so its cost is $120. Now, which one does most farmers normally they would like the 100, a little bit better quality, 110, not inferior quality plus a higher price. But now after the tariff, these look less attractive, and now this one, even though the quality might be a little lower, it's got a lower price, so that makes sense. So you either pay the import tax, the tariff right here, and that would come into the government, or it protects the industry, the United States industry. So understand that's the beginning of these tariffs. The biggest one was in 1816, and then there was another era where in 1828 was a really big one. And then we're going to talk about later in the 1832-33 era, there was another series of tariffs. Now the people who pushed these tariffs also pushed the National Bank. Let me come back to the National Bank for a second, but let's go back to just tie these together. What the purpose of that tariff is maybe clear now, but look at it in terms of the overall economy. Henry Clay and John C. Calhoun and Daniel Webster and some other people, senators, and Andrew Jackson, but especially Henry Clay, coined this phrase and this whole economic proposal, the American system. The American system starts with a tariff, and the tariff would bring in money to the government, as you have above. We call that revenue. It also protects industry. Protects industry. It also so this revenue, when the government brought in the revenue, it spent the money on what was called improvements. Improvements are things like this: roads, canals, not camels, canals, ports, river ports, and things like that that would improve transportation, especially transportation in the west or going west. And what that did was that promoted moving to the west and building up the economy of the west, and so that's very important about what they would do with the money. It also protected industry if people didn't want to pay the tariff. Okay, so this industry that was protected coincides with the West, which was being developed, and basically this has to do with the food industries. I've got a problem with my pen here. Unbelievable how pathetic this is working. So the food coming from the West goes along with the industry in the East that is being protected by the tariff. So the tariff affects the industry, which is connected to the West, because the revenues are going to be put towards roads and bridges and canals and rivers and ports, and so people were able to go to the West to get the food. So the food is now connected in the West is connected to the industry in the East. So industry and food and agriculture in the West. Now West would be even Tennessee, Alabama, this is Southwest, or Missouri in the Midwest, or you might even say Illinois and Indiana. That's what the West is. And so all this together is the American system. high tariffs, protects industry, builds improvements, window to the west, agricultural base, and now it's a full American system. That's the basics of Henry Clay's idea. Now, who benefits the most out of this? Who benefits, or who is for this? Who benefits and who is for? Well, people in the East were very much for this. People in New York, Philadelphia, Boston, because their industries were being built up. They would be able to sell their plows and all their tools and all their industrial products to the West, South and to the West. And so they mainly are the ones that benefited. The people who are anti-American system would be people in the South, because they weren't just automatically against it, but they grew to have a problem with it because the revenue coming from the tariff did not build up their industry. It mostly built up the Eastern industries. And if you go back to what the South needed to run the food industry, the agricultural industry, was things like plows. Okay, so if they needed plows, if you go back to the tariff, you can see that the plow from Britain and Germany was 100 and 110 instead of 120, but now they have to pay 120 because they buy the U.S. product. Okay, it's good to buy a U.S. product to benefit the country, but really the cheaper product, they could have had a British product or a German product, a better product for cheaper, but instead by the tariff they have to spend $120 more, which okay, you can be patriotic about it, but it has to do with money. And this is the way the Southern viewed the American system, was that it sort of taxed the South the most. The North, as an industry, was protected, but they had to buy from the North, the South did, and at a higher price. They could have bought British products that were better and cheaper. So they didn't get the best. They had to spend more, so money out of the pocket of the South. So understand that basic thing. So the South, their agricultural industry here was trading. Let me see if I can get this better. Nope. I can get this. This is ridiculous. Okay, so I've got to move on with this. My pen is really causing me problems. I'm sorry. So people in the South were against. They were trading right in here. Trade with Europe, and mainly cotton and tobacco and food products. And Europe was trying to trade manufactured goods, and the South was attracted to those goods, but not at a higher price. So even though the South was an agricultural center, it was really into international trade. The people who were against it was the South, and it centered in on the state of South Carolina.